This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. That's right, the video game show that is not hosted by an annoying e-beggar. There are no Patreons, no Super Chats. That's right, we just talk about the games we love and how fun it is to hoard them, and maybe a topic here or there. Now, with that said, let's get ready for the show. On today's episode... Hello, humans, and welcome to the very first episode of Behind the Channel. You know, the first guest that I wanted to have was the man that actually inspired me to do this series, right? I found myself having better conversations with him privately than I would a lot of times, you know, through whether it was Twitter or chats or anything like that. We're having more meaningful conversations, to me, more interesting conversations, because sometimes when you're, you know, doing live streams and what have you, you know, subjects get derailed. Everybody wants to be heard. So it's very hard to keep one straight line of thought. And I wanted to bring, you know, the person that actually has improved my channel. You know, for me, it's always about being thankful, you know, and this gentleman has really helped me. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. PANDASUB2000. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you so much for having me on and all the nice words. That is usually not what I hear. I usually hear he's boring, he's dull, leave me alone. So I do appreciate whether you were lying or not, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, not at all. You know, we come, you know, I really want to talk to you because we always talk about, you know, media and different things. And I really wanted to delve into our influences, right? So the reason, you know, for everybody and whoever doesn't know, you know, I have a lot of new viewers now. You know, you burst out on the scene with the whole Amico wars when they were going on. And what really made you stand out was your production value.
Yeah.
And even though you didn't mean to, you know, you really outshined the company. You know, it was one of the reasons for me, you know, and other creators, to be fair, where we thought, you know, this company is not spending enough in production, because if this man can do a better job of promoting their product than they are, there is something really wrong, you know. And at what point shouldn't they say, you know what, let's have him do it, right? And that's what we were talking about in the background.
Yeah.
But even other creators started noticing your work and they were trying to copy it. I remember OBP tried to do something similar, but what you did was so far above and beyond what anybody else was doing. It was just night and day. So, you know, that's when, you know, a lot of us, we're just looking at our content going, you know, what I'm producing is absolute shit. There isn't anything I can do close to this.
Well, I think too, real fast, I think that's one of the things that, you know, obviously I had heard some feedback from that, to say the least. And, you know, one of the things was, well, obviously they must have hired you to do this because you know, how did you make all this stuff and stuff like that? But I had actually been doing that prior, just no one was watching. I had 40 subs, and I'm confident like 38 of them were my mom's like alt accounts. I'm pretty confident.
Grossly underrated. Let me tell you guys, when it comes to production value, you're rarely going to find better than this, you know. And if you really want to, you know, they say that the man that knows everything knows nothing, right? Is not going to learn anything. And I knew that I had to learn more, even though I didn't have the time or was very good at it. But it really inspired me to, you know, get better, right? And I think that was true for a lot of people. But anyway, video games are the main reason, right? We first started talking, and I noticed you. Let me ask you, what are your first memories of playing games, right? What was your system growing up?
So I had an Atari 2600 and a Coleco, but that's, my brother's much older than me. So that's how I started. But really the system that I grew into was the NES. That was the original system.
Okay.
And my brother is a very large man. He's 11 years older than me. And we would play every game there was under the sun that we got our hands on. And I would always try to, because he would hog the machine, and I would try to beat him with my little tiny stupid 5-year-old hands, and then he would knock me down with his very adult 12 or 13-year-old hands. So I didn't get as much time as I wanted to. But yeah, it's thankfully I had that Atari 2600, that appreciation of what kind of came before what we now probably consider like really the big boom of video games. I was still playing with the bleeps and bloops of those pixelated graphics, and had fun with those, and thoroughly enjoyed making up my own stories for these lame graphics, because your mind had to imagine something greater than what was on the screen.
Yes.
So when the NES came out and suddenly we're seeing things that you can understand, they're almost like little cartoons, if you will, I was absolutely captivated by that. I gravitated towards that immediately.
Let me ask you this. Now, I'm known for having a lot of games, but you have some quality games. Oh my gosh, your collection is so varied, and you have some very expensive games in very, very nice condition. But
yeah,
I'll ask you something that I tend to ask everybody that owns these type of collections.
Mm-hmm.
If you had 3 consoles in a desert island, right, which consoles would they be?
So, it's an interesting question, because you figure if I'm on a deserted island, I kind of want things for that specific, it's not your favorite. It's like for that environment. I would say
Yes.
for me, the Switch. I love that system. I think Nintendo really took a very underappreciated Wii U in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
A fantastic console with great ideas, underutilized. They gave up on it too soon. They didn't push third-party developers enough to utilize that amazing controller. The Switch kind of is the what we always wish the Wii U could have been. I think it kind of fulfills that.
Yes.
So the Switch would definitely be one of them. Everyone hates me for saying it, but I'm bringing the Virtual Boy because I love the Virtual Boy so much. I know it hurts everyone's eyes, but for me, it's like I'm willing to deal with the headaches and potential vision loss, because I just love that depth that Virtual Boy introduced to gaming, that we were finally able to see a game world, and that you put your actual head in this environment. I loved that. So
there was an old Atari arcade game. I forget what it was called, but you were in a tank. Was it Warzone? I can't remember, but it had that kind of vector graphics where it was deep. But the Game Boy has probably the game that I would spend money on the most if I was still single. That's Back Bros from Atlas. That game is ridiculous. That's like $600, $1,000 now. But yeah.
And I'd say it's that final console is a toss-up for me. I keep going back and forth. N64, GameCube. I'm actually just going to say the PS4. But those would be the other things in my mind.
Yeah.
The PS4 to me, since I'll never be able to get a PS5, I'm kind of confident they don't exist. I've never seen one out in the wild.
And I feel yeah, just go with Sony. That's how I got mine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, everyone says that, and I'm on every mailing list, and they keep skipping me by. I had a friend who's like, "Oh no, dude, here's the link. Just here you go, out of stock." So I'm like, "This thing doesn't exist. You're all lying to me. I'm being bamboozled." So the PS4 to me had, for me, some of the best first-party titles. I particularly love narrative-driven stories, so you can't go wrong with things like Uncharted, God of War, Last of Us. I know Part 2 was, but still an impressive game nonetheless. Okay, so I'm going to go with the PS4.
Awesome. I look at your content, and it's so varied, right? It's so different than everything else out there, and for me, my inspiration, right, the way I do my YouTube channel, and pretty much I do everything, or from my influences. My influences were radio. That was the internet of my childhood. And I come from the days of Johnny Carson, of David Letterman, right? That type of content, and I would watch old shows in front of the TV. They left me in front of the TV alone. So I watched the Brady Bunch, Star Trek, things like that, right? So that really influences my content, when I think about being creative. What about you, right? What are your influences when you're creating, the type of shows that you're doing? Because you do shows
I try,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Weird shows, but yeah. I think I'm probably going to say what a lot of people have said. So first of all, I love Johnny Carson. I love Letterman, 100%. As far as the YouTube work that I'm doing, so much influence obviously came from AVGN. I think I actually feel for AVGN. I feel like he's a filmmaker that got stuck into one thing that he loves, no question. But you can kind of feel, I can feel from him that he wants to do more. And that was actually something, because I was so inspired by his work, that's something that I kept in the back of my head. I'm like, whatever you start to do, in the lottery chance that anything would ever blow up, make sure it's open-ended so that you can always keep doing something else, which is where I came up with the show, where I could have different planets and all these different storylines where I could keep making kind of more filmic things without being pigeonholed in as one thing, one
Yes.
couch, pair of glasses, and staying in that den. So definitely AVGN. I love what Red Letter Media does, Nostalgia Critic. So those were kind of the main influences from YouTube specifically that I really look to and love what they do.
One of the things that we had talked about, and this is an ongoing thing, for creators, right? I have a hard time calling myself a creator, right?
Mhm.
Because I think I just turn on the microphone and speak my mind, right?
Sure.
I'm not really creating. I'm really just observing the world and trying to talk about it. But even with those things in the environment that we have today, right, where the wrong opinion can really just completely destroy what you're working on.
Sure.
How do you see how do you figure on navigating this media moving forward, when you have to censor yourself,
Yeah.
because even by mistake, maybe you're not even intending to, you do something and somebody gets, offended over something that you said or took it the wrong way. And when you're an artist, right, it's a very fine line that you walk, because, at least when I was, growing up and enjoying media, trying to cross those lines, trying to break those barriers of entertainment
Mhm.
was something that you strive to do. And
Yeah.
now, it's the complete opposite. What do you see coming for
I'm
creators?
well so everything I'm about to say, I think every creator out there should not listen to, right? So so basically the answer is the opposite of everything I'm about to say is what everyone else should do. So me, I've always kind of been I think I've even said this to you. My family's always said you're allergic to money, because I've always been this rebel who says, no, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And when I started this channel, knowing in the environment we all live in today, where there is censorship, there's politics, there's everything in the world that can, external forces that can get in the way of what you're trying to make, right? And I said to myself, yeah, and I'm not going to care. I'm going to do exactly as I want to do. I'm not going to try to cater to anyone. The minute I felt personally that I no longer knew what the hell Amico was doing, and we had talked about this a lot,
Yeah.
was the minute I said, okay, well, I want out. Until I know what's happening, I want out. And that's when I decided to remove that stuff, because I said, all right, I love this thing. I'm having fun with it. But now it doesn't feel like fun anymore. Now I can't gauge what's happening. And that's not a space I want to be in. So I decided to remove myself from that and decided to go into do other things. And a lot of the content I do, you'll see I don't really chase any trends. I just kind of do, I want to play an FMV game. Damn it, that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes they're dating games, and I'm going to say things that some may perceive as misogynistic, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it anyway because I find this funny. So I think everyone should not listen to what I'm doing. I think what you have to do, a smart creator out there, you be true to yourself, but you also be smart about the market. And you do your best to not necessarily censor yourself, but put a version of yourself out there that can have the most appeal ever. This is if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you a lot. And and one of the reasons that I wanted to do this format, and you know what inspired me to do this type of show, right, is that you can't be that way. So you know you have to measure your words sometimes.
Yeah.
And what I tell creators now is you have to create your own infrastructure, right? So
Yes.
now we have Rumble. Now, hopefully, right, the word is out there that Twitter is going to compete with YouTube, right? Because, you know, I mean, hopefully, I mean, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, you know, it really doesn't matter who it is, but we need something else because there is, uh, you know, the line is constantly moving,
Yeah.
right? What is offensive? Well, it depends who's running the show at a company. And when I try to tell my friends that have opposite points of view is this: these companies can be bought or sold, right? So right now you're happy because whoever's pulling the strings has your same views.
Exactly.
What happens if it gets sold and all of a sudden they decide what you say is not okay, and then your work just goes like that? And they can do it to anybody. I mean, just a channel that right now MXR Plays, I just made this video. They almost have 2 million subscribers.
Wow.
And they got their second strike for putting the head of Gordon Ramsay on a woman's body.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? It's nuts. And these are like good Christian kids. I mean, it's really tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff, you know. I mean, it's just nuts, right?
Yeah.
But you have to protect yourself and create your own infrastructure. And I think for creators, right, for people that are artistic, and this is what I tell them, for people that are artistic, the problem is that you're in business, right? You may not like money, but YouTube is going to sell your content whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So you are in business. So somehow you have to protect your art.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, and we just have to evolve with it, you know, I mean, and use the technologies that we have at our fingertips to keep on moving. But if your goal is not to make money, then you have a little bit more freedom, right? Because you're not afraid of that gun being put to your head. And probably this will get struck for that, you know, because I said
water gun.
Water gun.
Water gun. Yeah, no, but I think everything you're saying is dead on. It's and what complicates this even more so is that even if you went out, you know, you started a YouTube channel and you said, okay, my goal is to be the most successful, you know, YouTuber in the world. And because of that, you're gonna, you know, make sure you censor yourself. You can do all this other stuff. The problem with YouTube there is that most people come to YouTube, and I agree with this, for the real you. They don't want a filtered version of you. They want to know who you are. So what you're saying is if you go in there and you start building your own infrastructure or have that mindset of having those backup plans and building maybe a web page or being on Rumble, other media, that's probably the smartest way to go. That way you can still be you, gain that following, and then you don't sacrifice, you know, what your product is. That's the smartest thing I think you've said. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, and I think the next couple of years are really going to be crucial to what people can and can't do, you know. With that said, you know, I want to go back to our influences, right? And our inspirations. Because the point of these interviews is to really get to know the person, because it makes us one-dimensional, right? Especially when people know us from a certain thing or what have you. People might think that I'm always talking about investments, you know, 24/7. And, you know, there's other facets to me. You know, I'm a dimensional person. If you had a choice of producing, going back in time and working on any TV show, right? Be behind the scenes, look at the creative process, what have you. Who would you go back and work with?
So I have been blessed to have actually worked with most of my heroes, work on actual projects with them. But there are two in particular that I haven't gotten to work with. And that is Quentin Tarantino and Damon Lindelof. Damon Lindelof I don't know if you're familiar with him. He did Lost. He did The Leftovers. I would have loved to have been in the writer's room of Lost. That for me would have been the concept that they built was if you're a writer or an artist, like that is heaven. it's this wonderful playground of whatever you want with a fantastic hook and mystery that creates cliffhangers in every episode. Like that, it just works perfectly in producing that great cliffhanger. I want to see what happens next. Oh, what's in that box? What's in that cabin? What's in that thing? So to be in that room, what I think was incredible writers and super imaginative people, it would definitely be Lost, and Damon Lindelof would have to be it for me.
Awesome. Let me ask you, if you could write for anyone, right?
Mhm.
If there's an actor or actress out there that would say, you get to work with them, right?
Mhm.
Who would you pick?
Oh, certainly anyone but me. Can I just a side note? Like, this show was never supposed to have anything to do with me. I'm a behind the scenes guy, right? So the whole thing originally was I was going to hire local talent to do the show, but it just turned out I did not have the money for that. So I was like, well, I'll use my sorry mug for literally every single role. Because I'm camera shy. I'm not, like, it's not my thing. So this is a wonderful question that I wish I actually had the power to actually use.
Oh my gosh, but that's such a, let me ask you this.
Sure.
I mean, and just because we're talking about, and these are the topic conversations that I'm talking to you about that we can have behind the scenes. There's so many upcoming actors and actresses or people that want to get into video games, whatever, out there that can't work, right? Why not create that type of network where you can get these people on and just say, look, all you have to do is X, Y, and Z, so they have something to put in their portfolio. I mean,
sure.
There's, I mean, have you looked at those kind of opportunities of actually, because I know there's a lot of people that want to be internet famous for whatever reason, and they're always looking for somebody to help them because they have no idea. I see a lot of people that have, raw talent, but zero guidance, right? They don't have any of the expertise that you have, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever, through social media, through anything, try to put something like that together?
Yeah, but thankfully with this show, as a matter of fact, that is something that I've been working on in the background. My episodes take an enormous amount of time to work to finish. So there are episodes I'm working on now that won't be out for 2 years, and I'm working with people with them having a green screen and me having them put on the show that way. I've been in touch with people I would have never thought I'd be able to be in touch with, and then also met some friends this way too. So absolutely, 100%. And hopefully, if I get to keep doing this, I can't wait to meet more and more people. I've even spoken to you. We've kind of talked a little bit, maybe you jumping on the show potentially. I don't know if that was a joke or not, but certainly that would be fun.
Yeah, no. I mean, I used to do, I used to be in plays back in high school and stuff like that. I used to do accents. I used to do actually promotions,
Oh,
back
really?
in the day. Yeah, I used to be, I used to play the an alternate version of the Most Interesting Man.
Oh,
Right?
really?
Because I have this weird, because I grew, even though I'm an American citizen, I grew outside the US, right? So English really is my second language. So sometimes you'll notice that the cadence of my talk is a little bit different.
Rarely.
Sometimes I have to think I mostly think in Spanish and then speak in English. And that's
Okay.
why some things come out like that. So I'd be sitting there like, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis, that kind of stuff. Because I always had a beard since I was, since I was younger. Man, but just listening about your creative process and your experiences, it just really inspires me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Because
great.
it inspires me for the community, right? Because not a lot of people know this about you. Right. And there's so many people, whether it's the Amiga community or other people out there that that didn't know anything about this. Right.
Yeah.
Because all they see is these one-dimensional characters where we get out here and then we just talk about one single thing. And they might be more apt to reach out to you and talk to you about these things. I mean, and like I told you guys, if you see any improvements in my channel whatsoever, they're absolutely 100% have to do with this gentleman right here.
Well,
right?
thank you.
And I really, really want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for your time. This has been a
Anytime.
great interview, man. And thank you for being here on my first episode. I really, really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. A lot of fun.
All right. Thank you very much. That was Mr. PandaSub2000. Go check him out. I'm going to put the links down below. He's out there in social media. If you have any questions on anything that he spoke about, go ahead and reach out to him. Thank you so much, Panda.
Thank you very much.
New videos every week. Make sure you don't miss out and subscribe.